I'm sure that there are large topics that I have missed as a as the moderator. So I wanted to also offer the actors and the playwright the opportunity to maybe talk about if there are other issues that come up that they thought were particularly interesting in this excerpt and in the play in general.
I was speaking to my friend yesterday, 2 mornings ago. She lives in St. John's, Newfoundland, but she's from Libya. And it just added a whole other layer to preparing for this, because, I said, Kyria, how's your family? Like, meaning extended family back home. And she said, well, we haven't been able to communicate. They're limiting phone conversation, everything's being monitored, everything's being watched. When we do manage to get through by phone, it has to be very simple and very positive, and you have to figure out what the code is underneath that. We're fine, everybody's fine. They don't want to speak out about what's really happening because they could be arrested, and this is a reality of what they're living with. So it was very interesting to prepare for this reading with that very real experience going on, just not so far away for a good friend of mine.
Just the race, the government, and the communication thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, to add to what Kim said, and not to sort of end this discussion on a depressing note, but yeah, I mean, it was sort of important to me to write the script within the realm of possibility. So I didn't want to do something that was going to be so sort of cynical and so sort of off in out in left field that you wouldn't be able to relate to it or draw any real world examples. So as this play develops and as we go into a fuller production, I will continue to try to convey that this is going on right now. Maybe not necessarily all of this going on here right now, but you look at other parts of the world and this is happening, and I think it's important to be aware of that.
Do you feel like you're ahead of the curve a little bit because of those, or its directness of timing, because of those things that are happening in Libya, Egypt, Yemen, all those things? Like this play, do you feel like it's very important to put out because of that, or is that just kind of adding to that awareness?
Well, it's timely in terms of what's in the media at the moment, but let's not pretend that this wasn't happening 10 years ago, this wasn't happening 15 years ago. It just happens to be what is currently being reported. So, I think it's the concepts that are dealt with in the play are always going to be relevant, and hopefully that gives it longevity. Fingers crossed, I would hope.
You've always been ahead of your time.
Definitely, I'll say for sure.
We go way back. But that would give my age away.
20-something. I think we have a question from
I just have one question. First of all, Lubuli, awesome. It's great. I'm so proud of you, Michelle. The academia angle is it's very interesting to me. So I had questions first about Emma's character and just being an academic, and the background of that maybe in the play that you know of, and how that kind of shapes her view of the world and such, and just the idea of structure of academia, how that manifested itself in the play.
It's a kind of otherness, isn't it?
Yeah. One more layer.
That's just another layer, I think. That those who are, the academics among us, are set apart. There is that otherness. I mean, just as there's otherness when someone I don't know, I'm gonna be politically incorrect here. Some hockey jock shows up at, you know, a party of professors. You know, that would be just as isolating, right? I think it's another very clever and interesting layer of how common this sense of being other than is actually a common experience. Is unifying, really.
You were asking about my character, where she's coming from?
Yeah.
I did a little research, and there was a couple other professors found on the internet, and how they would travel and they would do lectures, and they're professors at the university and stuff like that. So Emma Sissoko Worthington, my character, she's used to giving lectures and throwing her opinion in there, and gathering facts and stuff like that, doing research about like Black history and otherness, and also feeding off of the media, like television, and music, and movies, and what she basically grew up with. Also, like what kind of images that you get when you watch television and movies, and how that affects you. And a lot of times that has made her rethink about her own identity, and then her surroundings being like for instance, like the only Black kid in her class. Hello. Also, and then hair is an issue. It doesn't come up in the play, but you know, if you're a different race, your hair is a little different, and so that also highlights how different you are, your otherness. Growing and becoming a teenager, you know, adolescence, dealing with that, seeing how you express yourself as a young person, and then just still feeling awkward, and basically what I'm rambling about on is just how she has viewed herself and how she feels. She's just so aware of how others, she will never feel like she is like everybody else. And so it's almost like she's preaching in a way, or she's trying to get the word out that we are not the same. She's been aware of this since birth, or when she first became aware of it, and as an adult. So there's some anger in there, but she's trying to process through that dissatisfaction with, you know, this is not enough. What the government is doing is not enough. What the average person is doing is not enough. She feels that she is trying to make a difference, at least in the world, you know, starting off in the universities and when she lectures, and then this happens. She gets kidnapped and thrown in a jail cell. So, yeah.
And I think, just to add one more thing to that layer of the world of academia, like we have this perception that because you're academic and you're smart, that you're broad-minded, but it's often quite the opposite. Like try to speak to a professor about getting an extension because your grandma died. Like it's like, you know, or speaking to a specialist about something you found on the internet that might be wrong with you. You know, like they don't want to hear that. There's some of the, I mean, some of the academics of our world are some of the most narrow-thinking people in our world.
Oh yeah.
Oh, even some judges. Yeah, given what's been in our news this week. Speaking of women's rights.
I think he needs more jokes too.
That's what you're here for.
A couple more jokes.
Some levity.
Some tripping or some physical.
I'll do a strip tease for the camera.
I think on the note of levity, I was just going to say, you know, as we're celebrating Black History Month, you know, it's a time when we reflect on history, we reflect on current, and, you know, ponder what's coming up in the future. So it's, you know, we look at where we've come from, and we also look at education and action. So I wanted to leave that with you and offer the actors, the players here, to maybe share something that either their character or they themselves think that want to offer you to take away, to take away from this excerpt in this play? What seed you want to plant in your minds?
I think the theme, for me, it's definitely the theme that otherness is actually one of our most unifying experiences.
No matter how other you feel, there's an other.